What's the most important thing for your aquarium plants to grow? Probably light, right? What's the second most important thing for them to grow? Probably nutrients, actually. Well, the third most important thing for them to grow is most likely CO2 or carbon, which allows them to actually build their structures, build their cells, photosynthesize, produce sugars and things that they need to survive. That is where the new product from Fluval comes in, the Bio-CO2 system. Fluval sent me this to take a look at, and that's what we're going to do in this video. I actually haven't looked at this yet. We're going to do it together. You and me, we're going to look at this and see what we think. Adding CO2 to your aquarium is actually quite easy. People have been doing it for a very, very long time in two similar ways, but the way that they get your CO2 can be different. So the first way is you just buy a pressurized canister. The second way is you create, or at least you employ, some yeast to create the CO2 for you. There's the professional way of doing it, or the pro way of doing it. I just call it the expensive way of doing it. Or you've got the cheaper way of doing it, which is the DIY. This is very interesting because this is taking the DIY, the sort of cheap and cheerful method, and making it less cheap and cheerful, but actually a lot neater, tidier and safer. So we're going to be looking at this product. This is the Bio-CO2 Pro. That means that by using this you are a pro. But we're going to have a look at this product because it's kind of, on first instinct, this is really quite weird, and I'll explain why. Because this looks like a really premium product, and it is, I'm sure it is. It's stainless steel, it looks very, very nicely designed. And my experience of doing CO2 is you either go for the really high-end stuff like this, where you have a canister which is pre-pressurized, you have lovely pipework, glassware, and it looks all stunning, or you do it how I used to do it, which is like a Coke bottle with some really badly siliconed airline, and you put some beer yeast in it, you put some sugar in it, and hope that it works, hope that overnight it doesn't just explode in froth and foam, and you might actually end up with it working where you create your own CO2 gas via the yeast and you get your CO2 that way. They're the two ways. This is kind of in the middle. You use your own yeast, but you buy an absolutely stunning looking container to do all of that sort of chemistry within it. So without further ado, let's take a look what we get in this box. So let's just take a look at a few of the features on the box here, because it does tell us quite a lot. This model here is the 250 litre version. There is a smaller one for 125 litres. I would personally just always buy the biggest one because you can never tell when you're going to upgrade your aquarium, and it's always handy to have the larger version possible. We've got this interesting fact here which actually tells us that the culture, the yeast culture, lasts for 30 days. So we've got a month's worth of carbon dioxide. A bit of fluff here about how carbon dioxide is useful for plants. Well, we know that, we should do anyway. It's a safe system. We'll go through the safety features in a second. Again, all about the length of time. Interesting here, it tells us that the unit is stainless steel and we've got silicone gaskets on it, which helps to keep the gas inside of the canister. And a quick use guide here of how to use our yeast. So we've got our yeast, we've got our activator, and we have sugar, which we have to add ourselves. So make sure you go out and buy some sugar, and then just tap water, which is interesting, tap water. That might be a thing. I don't know if you should maybe use RODI or, you know, tap water without chlorine in it. I don't know if chlorine affects yeast, or this might be a particularly hardy yeast which isn't affected by chlorine. But personally, you know, in the UK it's okay, our chlorine levels aren't too high, but if you live in a country with high chlorine, you might actually not want to use tap water. You might want to use something like RODI or something like that. And then obviously allow 24 hours, we've got a bubble counter, and then here is the unit itself, everything that's in the box. A bubble counter, pressure release valve, we've got a chamber itself, the chamber, we've got a bubble diffuser, a check valve, some airline, and our booster and CO2 activator. Also, additional products that you could buy. Funnily enough, Fluval have sent me them as well. Thank you very much. So let's look in this box then. I've not opened this since I've received it. You can see, in fact, the tape is still on it. So this is a special moment for us both to share. Let's get out our trusty razor blade and open her up. Right. I always like opening up new products because you never know what's going to be in the box. Well, we do know what's in the box, right? Oh, here's an extra little bit here. There's the dimensions, should you need to know whether it fits or not in your cabinet. That's handy, and obviously we've got a 3-year guarantee plus an extra 2 if you register. So 5 years guarantee. So Fluval are really standing behind this product with that. So opening the box, we have our bioactivator and our bio booster. We'll have a look at that in a sec. We've got a little tray. You can use that for whatever you like. You know, roll some dice in it if you're that way inclined, maybe. A mystery box. And our canister. Wow, that's actually quite hefty, isn't it? Oh, and I almost forgot the instruction manual. Right, we'll leave the instruction manual till last, and we'll look at the canister, because I think this is the most exciting part. We obviously have it nicely wrapped to stop scratches. You can see it is very nicely finished, really nice. It is obviously stainless steel. It's got an engraving here that says words. Max is 1.3 bar, 19 psi. However, I was thinking about this before I did this review about people using solenoids on this system, because it has been done. I read a few people on some forums have added solenoids to these, which is a nice way of stopping CO2 going into your aquarium at night time when the plants aren't using it. You get massive pH swings and things. And I was thinking, well, if you do that, surely you're going to get a pressure build up in here. And it does say here 1.3 bar. But one of the biggest features that sets this apart from your Coke bottle under your cabinet is the fact here we have a release valve. This is so important with DIY CO2, because if we don't have this release valve, as I mentioned before, if you do it a DIY system with like a bottle, Coke bottle or whatever in your cabinet, there's no way of releasing excess pressure. And if your yeast goes a bit mental, which it can do, what happens is the foam, the gas that's released as well, can just build up in your bottle, and you can end up with an explosive in your cabinet. And it does happen, and it has happened to me. Okay, it hasn't exploded, but I've had the bottle split, and I've had the contents, all the sugary, yeasty water just go everywhere. So that's one of the reasons why I guess you'd use this system, is because you know it's not just going to explode. And even if there is a pressure build up, we've got this safety feature here of this pressure valve. So it does allow you to use a solenoid, and it does allow you that peace of mind where you know it's not going to go wrong on you, which is really nice to see. We have a lovely engraving here of Fluval. I think Fluval should start making like thermos flasks and stuff, because that looks really nice. I'd happily eat my soup out of that, wouldn't you? On the top we have all of our connectors. There's a bit of cardboard tube on there. That's obviously where we put our our airline on. We've got our flow here, handily negative and plus, so we know we can adjust our flow of the gas, obviously. I imagine we could unscrew that if we wanted to, but I'm not going to. Let's get into it. Oh. Let's have a look. So yes, you can, if you wanted to. You can fully remove all of that if you needed to. I don't know why you would. Maybe if you get a blockage for some reason, you can give it a good clean out, whatever you like. We've got our seal here. That's that silicone seal, quite hefty. That is removable as well, so if you need to replace that for whatever reason, you can do that. So that's nice to see. The canister, oh, it does contain some bits and pieces. So in here we have our CO2 diffuser. This is something we'll look at in a sec. We have a small piece of airline. I would imagine that'll be fine for most people, but if this is going on a 250 litre aquarium, the cabinet's probably quite low down where you might want to put this, so you might want to get some more CO2 airline. That doesn't strike me as enough personally, but it's in there. It's some, isn't it? And then we have another mystery box, and other than that there's nothing. There's a little, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, inside there's a little line. I'm assuming that's a max fill. That does seem quite high to me though. If I read the instruction manual, I might be able to tell you what that is, but there is a line there indicating something. I'll get back to you on that. So that's basically the canister. Yeah, looks really smart, doesn't it? Should we look what's in our mystery boxes then? So mystery box number 1, we have our check valve. So this is just to stop water backflowing into your canister, essentially. It stops the water by gravity flowing back into your canister. This is important because DIY CO2 has sort of peaks and troughs of pressure. At the start it's normally quite high pressure, and then as the yeast sort of slows down, the pressure decreases, and at some point it's gonna basically stop. And that's what this is for. It's to stop the water backflowing into your system if and when you lose that pressure. The next mystery box, a bit heavier, I'm assuming this is the bubble counter. It is the bubble counter. Very nice. And there's a little rubber ringing there, isn't there? So that means I need to do something with that, which probably is open it up. Oh, I've lost something. Take that out. So that's some sort of gasket. We'll look at that when we do the setup. And here's the piece that I just dropped. That's just another gasket that goes under here. And we'll screw it all back together. So the idea of a bubble counter is it allows you to adjust your flow of your gas, essentially. So that might even just be a spare for that, thinking about it. So that goes on there. Just like that. And we will have to fill this with water, otherwise it won't be counting any bubbles. And essentially, as your gas comes out of here, goes up here, you've adjusted your flow here, it will create bubbles, and then that allows you to sort of measure the amount of CO2, because we know the gas is CO2. That will allow you to measure the amount of CO2 which is going down your pipework and into your aquarium. So a lovely little professional setup, isn't it? This is looking really, really smart. And like I said earlier, maybe that's for that actually. I'm going to take a guess and say that's for that. Like I said earlier, maybe. I'll read the instruction manual in a second. This is the kind of system which actually normally comes on the pressurized gas canisters. So this unit is in a really weird place, because it's as professional as the pressurized systems, and yet you're the one that is using the yeast. So I'm still trying to get my head around it. But the actual quality of the equipment is really fantastic, isn't it? I love to see all this high quality equipment. We have our diffuser. This is plastic, which is fine. Plastic is fine. And we have our bubble disc. I mean, you might all be familiar with what this is. Sits in the tank. This is basically the other end. The gas goes down here and it wells up in here and comes out here in a little stream of bubbles. We have some silicone suction pads to stick that onto your glass, and then we have our instruction manual. Cool, so the instruction manual does actually tell you everything you need to know. All the bits and pieces are here. We have got the sizes of the different units. Ours is the 2 litre. Tells you how to set the whole thing up. The little washer that I stuck on that end there doesn't go there. I think that's just a spare one actually, by the looks of it. We don't put that on there. And the little line on the inside of the canister is in fact the interior fill line, so you do fill it up all the way to the top. That's a lot of liquid in there, isn't it? That's way more than I would expect, but there we go, that's how it's been designed. And look, here we go, we've got all of our different instructions. And then the final little packet we've got here is the stuff, the yeast. We've got 2 packets of Bio-CO2 activator, and then we've got 2 packets of Bio-CO2 booster. The instructions say that you add 2 of these and 2 of these for the larger system, and 1 and 1 for the smaller system. It's pretty simple. And this is a booster, and this is an activator. I would imagine the activator is actually just the yeast itself. The booster, I have no idea, because initially I thought this must be the sugar, right? But the instructions tell you to add sugar in addition. So what is in this pill, I have absolutely no idea. But it's very interesting. When I set this up, I'm going to try and see what happens. It does say it takes 24 hours for this to actually activate, and you have to keep it at a reasonable room temperature. Very similar to how you would do your beer culture or your wine culture. Yeast needs to be warm. But it probably is not a beer yeast, I would have thought. It's probably something a little bit hardier, because it doesn't seem to be, well, the instructions don't indicate that it needs any real special treatment. So if it's not a beer yeast, it's probably something that's pretty hardy, that is being used in more industrial processes. But anyway, I don't know, it doesn't say anything on there, and I'm just guessing. Other things that I've been given, we've got this CO2 indicator. This basically, the chemical in there changes colour based on the amount of CO2 in your water. It's pretty simple to use. Basically you want that to be green rather than blue, I think it is. And yeah, when it's green, you know your CO2 is working and it's at the right levels. Helps you to adjust your bubble counter quite accurately. Where are we? Yeah, here we go, look. I should have read the packet, right? Low, ideal, high, perfect. And it's in a nice glass design, which is very nice. And I've also got a refill here. So essentially I've got 4 and 4. So in this system, this pack's worth 2 months of CO2. So here I've got 3 months of CO2, which is really quite nice. So let's talk about this then. What do you think about this? I think the product itself looks stunning, doesn't it? That looks so professional, really nice. I really like it. It's obviously a high quality finish. Someone's thought about this and thought about CO2 creation and how you can turn something that DIY CO2 is usually a very amateur kind of setup. How can you turn the amateur into a more professional setup, right? It does the job. We've got a safety valve, we've got a bubble counter, we've got a large container which we know is safe. It's even got a PSI rating, so we know it's tested. We know we can trust this. We've got all lovely valves, we've got all the equipment we need to monitor CO2. So, product-wise, outstanding, right? Outstanding product. The answer I'm struggling with is to the question of who buys this product, because the people that are really into their plants will just go out and blow probably hundreds and hundreds of pounds, if not thousands of pounds, on a high-end CO2 setup. We all know these people do that. And then the people that really love their plants but then want to do it DIY to save a bit of money, because these pressurized systems can be really expensive, can't they? And it's not just the initial outlay for the bubble counts, for the valves, etc, etc. You have to constantly get new canisters, or you buy a canister and get it refilled, which is kind of the cheaper option. You go to a diving shop and get it refilled, I think. There's still an ongoing fee for that, and it can be quite expensive. I think getting a canister from JBL, if I recall back in the day, was like £20 for a refill. You know, so it can have a cost to it, ongoing. And then the people that want to do it DIY, they use a Coke bottle, some airlines, some beer yeast from, you know, Wilkinson or whatever shop, and they do it themselves as cheap as possible. So this, I guess, is going for the middle road, where you want to do it yourself because you don't want the hassle of constantly having to get CO2 refilled. Maybe there's nowhere in your area that can refill your canisters and shipping is too expensive to get them shipped. I don't know, I'm making things up. So DIY is your only option. Okay, so DIY CO2 is your only option. You don't want to do it unsafely. You want to do it in a professional way as best as you can. So that's where this product comes in. We've got a safety rating, we've got a pressure valve, we've got a bubble counter, we've got yeast and products which we know actually work. We can trust them, they're weighed out for us, and we know approximately how long each one of those sachets should provide us with CO2 for. So we've probably answered the question then, haven't we? We're not probably going for the high-end planted tank user, although you could see a high-end planted tank user use this because aesthetically this looks great on Instagram, doesn't it? This looks beautiful with your perfectly scaped aquascape with that sitting next to it. So maybe DIY CO2 is the new market. Maybe that is why I don't understand it, because it's something that has previously been hidden away, sort of like a bit shameful to do it, and now we can kind of embrace it because we've got something that looks great on social media. Maybe. I could see myself using this. I certainly wouldn't want to do traditional DIY CO2 again, using bottles and things. It's just so messy. At least with this one you can wash it out as well, you can keep it clean and sterile. I would imagine, no, I probably wouldn't put this in the dishwasher actually if you're using yeast. Could be some chemicals on there, but you could definitely submerge this in some really hot water and give it a good clean, keep it sterile. So yeah, I can actually understand this now. Having thought it through with you, our discussion has allowed me to work out who's going to be using this product. Quite a lot of people, I think, actually, on retrospect. Not necessarily the top end, definitely not people who are trying to just get by and do their best with the equipment that they've got, but somewhere in the middle, people would definitely think that this is actually some system that they could add to their aquarium quite easily. And it's probably not as scary as using a pressurized CO2 system because you're kind of in control. You can do the yeast, you can understand the process of what you're doing. So yeah, interesting product. Let me know what you think in the comments because you can tell by the way I'm speaking, I'm still trying to figure it out myself. And it's just one of these really novel, it's such a novel product to the aquarium industry that I think that's why I haven't quite got my head around it, but it's stunning, isn't it? Let me know what you think, and maybe we can then carry on this conversation in the comments. So, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I will be doing another video on this where I actually set it up. I'm probably going to get it going in this tank behind me. You can see here, this is a marine tank, but it's got macroalgae in it. And I've been talking to you guys about using CO2 on my marine tanks, and this is probably a good opportunity to do it on here, isn't it? And we can see the results. So stay tuned for that. I'll be doing a setup video, and then I'll be doing a video based on putting it on this Fluval shaker tank as well. So thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and once again, happy fish keeping.